Welcome to our new podcast episode. Today here in Zurich at the Do Different office with Amadeo and Christoph. Welcome, guys, to the new episode.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
So, first of all, I want to introduce how we met Christoph. It was a funny story. So it first started with my personal story when I was applying to Do Different. To work with them. It was, I think, 5 years back in time when I tried, to get to them, to work with them, because I was always inspired how they work and how they work with other companies. The whole webpage was really inspiring. And then after all, when we started Amadeo, our company, we were at the FH Graubünden. We met Günther Bader from the EMBA and just bumped into the course of Christoph. And yeah, he was quite relaxed, said hello to us. That was really interesting. And now we're here in his office, which is really beautiful. They have a garden outside. It looks like, a shared apartment. And yeah, the area is really quiet. When you think about the Zurich Central Station, it was quite hectic. What do you think, Amadeo?
Yeah, very nice contrast. It's more like a very quiet family house. And I was quite surprised. First, I was thinking, this is not the office. He's inviting us to his private home. So yeah, when we talk about new work, so it's really about living and working at the same place. So I'm wondering how this came, but I'm happy to be here. I feel very relaxed, and thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you. So in fact, this is really a private house. So it was where we were living some years ago, and the start in this house was like, I was getting independent, so you work from home, so very naturally. And then we got our first employee and said, okay, that's fine for me. I just come in the morning, and then he got a key, and now we are about 10 employees, and everybody has a key and can just come to our house. And our kitchen and our living room is basically our meeting room, and our basement is our workshop room, and our in our roof room we have basically 4 working stations where people can work. So every time when I say, okay, now we need to move to a real office, our employees say, no way, we want to stay here, and we like the garden in the summer when you can work outside, or we even have a little garden concerts once in a while. So that's why we're still here and not moving to a fancy office building.
Really nice. Thank you, Christoph, for your introduction about the house. Maybe about your personality. Who are you, and why are you doing what you're doing?
I'm Christoph. I founded Do Different 11 years ago. By the way, we have some days we have our 11-year party. We missed the 10-year party for obvious reasons like COVID. And I was working for more than 20 years in the financial services industry, in different positions in marketing and in HR as well, and product development and mergers and acquisitions. Was working abroad in Japan, in France, and coming back, my option was just to look for another job in another big corporate, like whatever, bank or insurance. And my ambition was to say, okay, can I be an entrepreneur and found my own company? So I put my competencies and experiences together and figured out that at the crossroads of marketing, HR, and communications, there are many things to do. So that's how I founded my company. Originally, I have a degree as a teacher.
Okay.
So I was working as a secondary school teacher in Zurich for 2 years before I met so many boring colleagues, or bored colleagues who were kind of bored to death, and in the age of 40 I said I need to go to the private sector to at least figure out how this was, and so I stuck there for 20 years. But I'm still teaching, as you see, in the Fachhochschule Graubünden or other places, and this is kind of still with me. And then I founded my consultancy here in Zurich, and basically what we're doing today, we are facing on three big topics, which is strategy, because we found out, if you want to bring people, the people aspect and the system of an organization together with how you communicate, how you live, and how you can work there, you end up to have with the strategy as a core element. Then the second element is organization development, because I think organizations are on the move always. Is it culturally? Is it based on structure? Is it based on other topics to tackle? And the last one is personal development, where we basically help organizations to move their leaders to inspire their people in a way that they can learn. So learning is something which is also with us since quite a while. So summary: strategy, organizational development, and personal development.
So yeah, interesting journey. I mean, it started 11 years ago, and I was wondering, how was this changed? You said you worked in big corporates, and all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur. So how was this change? So at the beginning, or I would be very grateful to hear a little bit more. And also you mentioned there was a lot to do. So how did it actually came? Yeah.
So actually the change was quite dramatic. When I was a marketing head of a big insurance corporation, international insurance corporation in Switzerland, I had a budget of 25 million Swiss francs under my, in my responsibility. So I had many friends, if you have a budget of 25 million, many friends or wannabe friends or people who want to work with you or work for you, mostly agencies and so knock on your door, and and all of a sudden you're a consultant and you are completely on the other side because you are the guy knocking on other doors and finding out that you have not that many friends as you had before and the people are not that much interested in talking to you as they were interested in talking to you when you had big budgets. So this was quite a dramatic change, which I wasn't that much aware at the beginning, that basically you have to really build up your credits from basics. You're not covered by a big name or a big brand or big budgets, or you have 20 or 30 people working for you, and that was quite a change, and it was also difficult because at the start, basically, you try to find, coffee dates, with people in corporate and say, can we go and drink a coffee? And at the very start, you basically were meeting project managers who were just interested to have an interesting break with you and have a nice chat, and you found out they have nothing to decide. They're not really interested. I mean, they're interested in your topic, but basically it's nothing which was kind of burning issue for them. So they were just nice having a little coffee with you, and they walked out the door and found out, okay, this guy has not much to decide, or it was just nice, And then from little projects and up to today, where we really manage to work with more and more with executive boards and even advisory boards, because they see, to really get to the core of an organization and to say, if you want to influence an organization, it often happens really on board level, and if you are not able to influence this level, it's always difficult to have influence on a corporate.
Yeah, somehow the word advisory board stick to my mind. I still find it problematic that there's not a lot of diversification in advisory boards. Also, I'm not only talking about female and males, but also age-wise. Would you agree this, or how is your observation? Is there a change in advisory boards, that it's more diverse, or also younger people are part of advisory board, or do you see there changes, or is there a change needed?
I mean, generally in advisory boards, diversity is a big issue. it's a big issue all over Europe and probably even further. And I think diversity is needed to get different aspects to the governance of corporates. I think first of all, diversity would be needed from competence. So what kind of competencies do we need to steer a corporate? It then goes to, if you think about diversity, it's also gender diversity, which I wish it would be more there. I'm not really much a fan of saying, we need just women and we appoint women so we can kind of show off and say we have 3 women in our advisory board because they are women. I think this is completely wrong. I would rather go into say we need women because gender diversity is important, but also we need, along with that, we need competence and experience. And I also think governance and advisory boards have somewhat to do with experience, because it's good if you have people in advisory boards who can profit from what they learned over a long time. On the other hand, I see also young generations should play a role in steering companies, but I'm not sure if the advisory board is the right place, or it should be more kind of different boards, where you say we have kind of an inspiring board, or it's not really a governance and control board, but rather a board which is helping to get new ideas, new perspective on how we can deal with our customers. I think I would rather work that than specifically. I'm not that much a fan of say we need Generation Z in the executive boards. I see where they're coming from. I can see some points, but I don't see that this is kind of really helping corporates. I think corporates should listen more to young people, for sure. Is the advisory board the right place to do that? I'm not sure.
So coming back to your person, it was really interesting. And when I was reading your webpage, that you describe yourself as a consultant, but also exhausting friend. What's behind the exhausting friend, or what kind of role is that? I had some imagination, but I would love to hear it from you.
Okay. If we work for companies, we know that's a term I use very often. We fall in love with our customers, because I think if you're not in love with your customers, it's difficult to have a good relationship. So we see ourselves as part of our customers' world and our clients' world, and we see ourselves as friends, and we want to be honest and open to them and say, okay, that's how we try to help you. We want to co-work with them. So collaboration is a big issue. It's not like we do something and deliver something and then you deal with it and we walk away and we give you some PowerPoint presentation and then help yourself. But it's much more as well. That's why I say it's an exhausting friend, or a difficult friend, because your best friends also are open enough to tell you things you probably don't always like. And I think that's the role of a consultant, to be an honest friend, which is open and transparent enough to say, listen, I saw some things I do not like, or I saw some things which I would really bring to your attention because I don't think it's healthy for the system. And knowing and saying that, also that you put yourself at risk, because some clients, they do not always do not want you to point or finger point on things which they know they're not really nice, but they know it, so nobody talks to them about it. Often the employees do not mention it, or they say, I tried it several times, but it didn't work and nobody wants to listen to me. So the consultant would also be the one who can say things other people cannot say. And I think this is an important task and job of which I see I have to do myself with a client. So that's why I say, a good consultant should be a friend of yours. He wants to do something which is helping you and which is bringing you forward, but it's also a friend which is not good friends. Somebody say, look in your eyes and say, okay, are you really sure you want to do that? Is this a good idea? Because what I see in you as a personality, I cannot see a fit, and I know you very well by now. So it's a good friend is also someone who tells you the truth because he's your friend, and not because he wants to stay your friend, because he really means it's serious, and that's what we want to do as consultants as well.
I like that explanation, very much clear for me, and maybe it would be also interesting to hear a little bit more about the company, especially the name, Do Different. And I also noticed that you use the word unconventional a lot on your webpage, and I would be interesting to hear about what are you doing differently, or what do you think you're doing differently, and what it actually mean unconventional ways, and why it's important nowadays, to not go with the mainstream.
Do Different is basically a name which came up to me or inspired me when I was talking to one of my favorite brand consultants I used to work with from Wolf Olins in London. And somehow he mentioned that somewhere, and I said, wow, that's a cool name, because it's basically not only a name, but it's also a message, that you say, okay, use different perspective, be curious, look at things in different ways, and also try to not only do the things like everyone else does it, but kind of try to do it in another way. And that's why I like the name. And I also didn't want to have a name for our company which is kind of limiting us in what we do. So Do Different is basically open to many things, and not only saying we work in HR or we work in communications or we work in finance, but also telling us, we have a holistic view of a company, and we look at the system and not at the different departments or the different working areas, because it's only if you look at the system as a whole, you can also kind of change the system. And doing things differently is basically a message which is almost always relevant. Doing things differently, looking at the shape of our world, at the climate change, at changing our work environments, digitalization, just name it. I mean, there are many things you need to do different to move forward and to be future ready with the company. So that's where the name comes from, and I'm still somewhat proud. I made this decision that didn't call it after my last name, the company, or call it after some fancy
Jordi GmbH.
Consulting,
Jordi Consulting.
Yeah, and that was the idea. Also, even if you go in succession planning, if somebody else takes over the company, he can still easily work with that name, because it's not linked to my personality, especially. That's where the name comes from. And by the way, I remember I had a list of about 30 or 40 names, and then I have also to look up which name is still available on the internet.
Yeah,
and I absolutely wanted to a .com address at that time, and not .ch, because I found it a little bit too regional. So I had big dreams. So DoDifferent.com kind of I had to pay a price for it, but it was still easy to finance. So that's how it came.
So you're a big dreamer. What does it mean? Does it mean you're a visionary thinker, or you always aimed big or very ambitious, or how should I understand this?
I mean, I wouldn't call myself a visionary thinker. This is something I will not. The other people have to judge that, but I think I can. What I consider myself is really always open to new ideas, always very creative in creating ideas, new approaches, new ways of looking at things, new concepts, combining and mixing different elements together to something new. I think creativity would much better cover what I do, or creative problem solving. I think that's a good aspect, a good way to say if you have a complex problem, if you need to look for a way out, then let's sit together and figure out what could be approaches to get to a solution which is creative and also which makes you smile and makes you happy and so that's what I'm looking for.
And coming back to your organization, which have 3 elements of strategy: organization development and person development. What do you think? What makes you different? To come back to your question, what makes you different, and what are you trying to change, or how do you change things within the organizations?
Sometimes too different is as well a pain for us because it forces us to do things differently. And sometimes we have customers and say, okay, was a nice workshop, but was that really different? And sometimes you have to say, no, it's just the appropriate thing to do at this moment in time, and we are not different just by default, but we are different when it's needed. And sometimes we have very conventional approaches and conventional medicines for companies help sometimes if it's right placed. On the other hand, I think do different means I think what makes us different is really the system view. We are not looking at the HR department say, okay, in HR you need to do this, but we say many times we say, okay, you need to sit together with marketing, with communication, with HR. We bring you together because we speak HR fluently, we speak marketing fluently, and we understand communications. And we need to talk. We need to bring in the CEO as well to make this kind of something which is going really to work. So kind of not limiting ourselves to specific departments or specific things, but thinking beyond the problem. Thinking beyond the initial problem, finding and looking for holistic solutions or creative solutions, kind of mixing things up and bringing new spirits in, bringing new energy. I think that's why people call us and say, okay, if you need to, for learning and development, there are many conventional consultants who do very good things and are experts, but if you want to do something special, different, then give us a call. I told you about this automotive client we have, so they wanted us because I think all the conventional stuff we already know. We work with them every day, but now we need new ideas, different ideas, and then they call us. And I think that we are open to kind of combine and mix things and go beyond the conventional approach we often see and the conventional recipes you get normally.
So you mentioned a few times now this holistic view, see the system as a whole. Can you give us a little bit more information about that? Is it going like into teal, or is it going into the problematic in the working environment that you often see like this silo thinking or these departments that are somehow separated or even working against each other? And
I mean, a very simple example is employer branding. We get a lot of calls where people say we need a video on our website, and say, okay, I think video is a good idea, but who is it targeted to? What are your target groups? We don't know, but we need a video. And say, what is the story you want to tell in the video? It's just about everything we do well. Say, okay, sounds good, but what is it? What is the purpose of the video? And then you figure out they have no clue and no concept, no strategy, and then you say you probably need to start with the strategy, because if you don't have a strategy on what you want to do, and if you don't have a value proposition you have to offer, then probably need to work on that first and not just kind of jump for a solution. So kind of And sometimes in employer branding, leadership development is the solution and not a video on the website, or it's a problem of the executive board, which is not willing to have a view on how to tackle problems which we have in HR and in recruiting, and these are kind of saying we need to look at it as a system, and not only as an HR problem or a communication problem or a website problem, and people just sometimes want to have this. I want to have a recipe for that. And say, yeah, I can give you a recipe, but I'm not sure if it's really what you need. You know, I can give you a recipe for a cookie, but if you need something else to be healthy, I don't think cookie is the right solution. And that's where we come in and say, okay, we need really look at the system as a whole. And I want to have first a chat with the CEO to say, does he take this thing seriously, or is he just thinking, okay, HR, if you really want employer branding, I'll let you do this, you know, because everybody wants to do that. And okay, it's hard for me to say no, but basically I'm not interested. Then say we can stop right now, because it doesn't add any value to the organization to spend 50,000 Swiss francs with a consultant. So these are the things which are really important to say, okay, let's look at the system, or involve marketing at the beginning, or involve communication at the beginning, not just at the end of a project. And this is going on and on. You know, if you work on strategy, we very often say, okay, why is the strategy only done by the executive board? Can we not involve more people? I mean, here we come up with the young ones and say, okay, why don't we involve people who are only here since half a year, because they're fresh eyes, they see things you don't see anymore. Why can we not involve younger people who are potentially interested in shaping the company of the future? So can we have a bigger audience to develop a strategy instead of just the executive board, you know, which is kind of more just doing more of the same, instead of having a fresh eyes or getting insights which they normally wouldn't get. So these are kind of the things which we consider as holistic view.
Really interesting, the holistic view. And yeah, Christoph, you mentioned the participation or the collaboration which is getting more important. When we talk about the different people in the different sectors of HR or communication, what do you see in future? What kind of trends in working together are important on the future labor market? Like you mentioned also roles instead of job descriptions. You mentioned the participation also on your webpage. So yeah, tell us a little bit more, like in this direction, what will be important in future if people work together? Because self-organization, holacracy, just like this, isn't just a solution, no?
I think it's, we can start with a classical organization, like you have HR, marketing, communication, finance, sales, operations, whatever. Basically, you need to change this in a way to say, okay, how can we create what I call a fluid organization, a liquid how can we create liquidity on experience, It's like liquidity on money, you need liquid assets and not only assets which are kind of in a box or they are just assets which are in equities or whatever, but basically you need liquid assets to work, and liquid assets means, or liquid experience means, we have a set of people who are working for us, and so the question you always have to ask, how can I best make use of these talents we have in our organization? And I don't care if they, if they're called marketing, finance, or whatever. So basically, how can we make best use of our talents in an organization by identifying their competencies and say, okay, I have someone who is good in finance, but he also has brilliant ideas, so why doesn't he work in marketing projects and in financial controlling at the same time? Why is an IT guy not potentially also very good to manage a social media channel because he's just a very good communicator? So putting people in boxes and silos in organizations is just wasting talent. So this is one thing. Basically, organizations will move more and more towards a project organization. So we can say, okay, it's kind of how can we manage our initiatives in a way that we always have the best talent at the best in the best space or best in the best place. So you need to define roles for that. So it's rather roles than job descriptions. Say, okay, what role do we need to fill, and where do I find the best people to do that in our organization? So that's moving away from departments and fixed job description where people show up and say, "This I cannot do this because this is not in my job description." Okay. Instead of saying, "Oh wow, that's a great opportunity to learn. Can I try this? I'm not sure if I can do this, but I would like to try because it's kind of expanding my experience." Or I have a catalog where I can access and say, "Okay, I can basically scan through my organization, say where are the different talents sitting, and how can I?" It's like a talent, organization as a talent market, where I always can move talents around in a way I have always the best setting for the actual need of the strategy of the company. So that would be the second thing, kind of. And the third would be kind of, I see an organization or a corporate more as a platform than as a place where you get a fixed job. Like a social media platform where you say, oh, there are people who are really in there are people who are heavy contributors, and there are people just from time to time, they come and help you. So basically, see an organization as a platform to improve your competencies and your experiences on the employee side, and see a company as a platform where you have liquidity of talents. And this means also kind of a consultant or an external employee or external providers could be is seen as an employee as well. And you have, like, I would say, I call it always memberships. So you have in a corporate, you have different memberships. It's not kind of you're employed, but you have a membership. So membership of level 1 is probably a very close membership with even a contract which gives you a regular salary, or a very close membership could be, you have a fixed membership over 5 years where you have a guaranteed salary and you have a guaranteed job, with the exception that if the company has the freedom to kind of rent you out to another company, which is probably say, okay, within a 20-kilometer range, so you don't have to move too much, so we cannot place you from Bern to Zurich or from Geneva to Chur. But basically they could say, okay, we work in Zurich, so if our platform has no need for your talent, I can rent you out to another platform. You get the same salary, you have the same conditions, but so you're completely safe. This is membership level 1 for people who really need a lot of security. On the other hand, you have membership level 2 is basically some part-time worker, or say, okay, I work only 3 days a week for you, and I want to have a yearly account of days I work for you, and I'm paid for these days. And you make use of my days whenever you want, and the rest I do not work for you. I go on holidays or work for somebody else. So and then you have loose membership where you can say, oh, I just need for some projects, I have a pool of members which I can ask and say, oh, can you help us out for these projects? It's kind of like a free contributor who has a membership level 4 or 5, and as an employee I can say, okay, with this company I have membership level 4, with this company I have membership level 2, and I work for 2 or 3 companies at the same time, and I can freely kind of freely contribute with my talents to the areas where I'm really interested in, and I'm interested in projects and working relationships which bring me as an employee to the next level of experience or to the next level of competence. And at the same time, it's a free market. Basically, if my talent is high in demand, also the price will be higher for my talent. It's also a talent market. And say, if I have the project management, if I'm a very talented project leader and the demand for project leader in some areas is really high. Probably I get a better price, and I'm priced along my talent and not along my fixed contract. I say, okay, the price for talent X is now in this season, it's just higher, so I better go on holidays in summer or in springtime, because normally in autumn and winter, this is a very high demand for accountants, because all the yearly the yearly accountant work has to be done, and it's better to give my talent in the winter time because it's higher paid. So it's kind of, I see platforms, I see memberships, I see roles as elements of a new work environment. But that needs also that our social security system has to be more flexible, and foremost also that employers have to start to think different with regards to I recruit now an employee, and he can be grateful if he's invited to a first meeting, and we will test him. Is he really the right guy to hire? And kind of this it's kind of, the labor market is changing. I think the more companies which are aware of that, I think the faster they can move forward. And I think, in Switzerland already we have a very, very liberal labor market, which would really give this opportunity to move in that direction.
The first point you mentioned was interesting, or there I have a following question. You mentioned that the company should make the best use of their talent. So this requires that the company knows their people, and we often see that when we work with big companies, that leaders, they have 40 or 50 people below them, and they often claim that we don't have a lot of time for them because we have so much pressure. And I would argue that they don't know their employees so well in order to say, hey, this person is actually not only doing this role, but it has also a creative talent which can be used. So what do you think? So is this the baseline that the company needs to get to know their employees, and how do they do this? Yeah. As to identify the competences to understand what would actually bring on the table.
There are two things. One thing is really change the role of the leader. So the leader is very often very much busy with operational stuff and not really taking care of people. So he's always pushed into operations and does operational stuff much more. And if he then is some spare time, then he says, okay, now let's go for a coffee with my team. But basically I want to relax. I don't want to hear the problems because I've already too many problems in operational work. So he really, he doesn't really have time to develop his people. And very often leaders are still promoted because of their technical experience and not because of their leadership competence. So I'm very clearly in favor of splitting the role of a leader, to say, okay, he's leading a technical area because he's really a technical expert, and people can come to him and ask him how they can solve a technical problem or an operational problem. And he's a leader he's an operational leader, because I can come and ask you, I have this technical issue and I'm sure you already met that issue. Can you help me, or can you teach me how to solve it? This is a technical leader. And the other thing is kind of a team leader who say, okay, we have people who are really talented to bring people together and to make teams work and to make teams click and tick and say, okay, we can solve this problem in the team if we go out and walk for a walk, or we need to we go for a dinner, or we do a retrospective in a different way, or I can help that the team works better as a team and is more successful as a team. So Cisco and other companies have Google as well have spent a lot of time to figure out how we can what does a team need to work better, like psychological safety and all this kind of stuff. And the third role a leader has is basically the individual development. You know, how can I bring my the individual to the next level? You know, does he know? Do I know your plan? What is your need? You know, what is your need personally with regards to your family life, to your private life, to your whatever you plans you have in life, and how can I help you to move on with your career and to improve your experiences and to complete your competencies, and where can I see you as in a next project, where I put you, how can I bring you together with people who are interesting to talk to, and so on and so forth. So I'm individually taking care of people. So this is a third role. So the leader has these three roles, and normally they're always combined with people who are most of the time excellent leaders in competence and experience, and on the operations side, and on facts, and on their job, but they're not by default good team composers. They're not by default good individual coaches. So sometimes I think it would make a lot more sense to split up these roles. It's okay, these are the three different roles, and you can be a technical leader, no problem. You can have a big salary because you're really the top expert in the field. You know, we need you, and people come to you and ask you, and you can lead them with regard to technical problem solving. And on the other hand, we have people who are really talented. I call them team composers, because they come in a team and say, okay, I can sense there is something wrong. You know, these two guys, I need to put them in the room for an hour and talk to them. Or this guy is completely, you know, not right in the role he has in the team, and so on. And others again are really talented in saying, okay, I'm a good coach in bringing individuals to a next level, you know. And if you split these roles as well and see there are people who are really sensing, you know, what people need, and they're good listeners and so on. So that's really valuable. But the expectation that a leader, a technical leader, has the other two talents as well is just not, it doesn't work.
Really interesting concept about the three roles.
Yeah, I find it also interesting because I see that problematic that a lot of people get promoted because of their technical skills, and there's also a reason why they get promoted, but then they are required to do the other two roles, and often they're very overwhelmed by the other roles, or they even don't fit to them, and then now you need a coach or you need a leadership development. But I like the idea also to promote people that maybe are not so skilled in the technical aspects, but the company identifies them as a potential in bringing people forward. And this was interesting, but I cut you off, sorry.
No problem. I was just like, I feel the flow. I love how we were discussing. Christoph is really interesting, but time is ticking out, and I have maybe one last question. But then Amadeo, of course, you can ask.
I give you this last question.
And when we're talking about the third role, the individual role, Christoph, a question to you out from your inner heart, like, what is your individual plan? What is your vision? Where do you want to go? Maybe privately or also business-like.
We are currently in an interesting phase of our company where we try to organize succession planning, because I'm turning 60 next year, and my plan is to kind of, if you're self-employed, you work much more than if you're employed, and I really want to reduce my work time to plan would be 80% next year, 60 in 2 years, and 40 in 3 years. And therefore we are looking at how we can organize succession at Do Different. And we just had yesterday a succession planning coach with us who were trying to teach us a little bit on how we can tackle it. So this is a current challenge we're looking at, which is really interesting, which makes us learn a lot. On the other hand, you know, our our aim is always to see, okay, where can we add value to companies in these times, in times of struggling with getting organizations right, struggling with getting strategy linked to implementation, and struggling with kind of how can we help these leaders to develop further, and how can we find out where we can make them better and improve their experience and competence. So, but otherwise, privately, I would like to spend more time in my mountain home, sit more on my mountain bike, or walk with my wife or dog, hiking, that's. I mean, I'm still very curious to get to know companies. I think it's always it's a privilege of a consultant that you can see many different companies and many different environments and cultures and how people behave. And I would love to do that further and apply my experience in that to other companies.
So interesting. Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome.
Here in this beautiful apartment. It was really nice to talk with you guys. And that was it from our episode with Christoph Jordi from Do Different. Thank you also, Amadeo.
Yeah, thanks everyone for this interesting talk. I feel very inspired, a lot of energy, so I will use that wisely during the rest of my day. And thanks for listening, out there.
Thanks for having me.